Hello snowboarders of the internet, I am your host TC and this is Top 5s, the only weekly top 5 show in snowboarding that you come to see which are my personal favorite boards of the 24-25 season. Number 5 is the K2 Alchemist. I personally own this board. I've had it pretty much since this board actually came out, but I like what they've done with it. For this year, or I think actually last year, they did this, but they added a little 3D on the top sheet there. So what that does, it stiffens up the nose a little bit, but it doesn't hinder the board by making it too stiff or anything like that. It just makes it so it doesn't want to flex if you're going full speed and hit, like say a mogul or just a chunder field. This thing is extremely stable, definitely on that more aggressive side, so stay low and be powerful on this thing. But I absolutely love it. From riding it like free riding to taking it off of jumps, it's super fun. I wouldn't take it off of rails or anything like that. It's just gonna be too stiff and you're not gonna have the best time. Just focus on that free riding aspect and you're gonna love this board like I do. Number 4 is the Ride Deepfake. I absolutely love this thing. It carves extremely hard where you really feel that front contact point engage, whether you're on the toe or the heel side, it doesn't matter. It just feels like you have from contact point to contact point on this of just edge control. There is gonna be some rocker in the nose, so it does float a little bit better than you would actually expect for how aggressive this thing rides, but you don't feel that rocker when you're actually turning. It holds an edge extremely well. It's got some nice pop to it and nice landing gear, so if you go and drop that rock cliff, you'll be fine. Just lean a little bit back and it'll hold you. This board's also gonna have metal in the sidewalls as well, so it's gonna give it a little extra rigidity there and a little extra snap. It's just gonna take a little bit more to load up, so just have that in the back of your head. Number 3 is the Bataleon Beyond Metals. I love this board. It is my favorite Bataleon board in their line. This thing is loaded with snap. Now it might be the softest board in the list. I actually will say it is the softest board in the list, but it is super fun where you have a great zone on that tail to load up and pop this thing with zero effort whatsoever. You find a little bump and you just want to ollie with it, go for it. This thing is going to send you to the moon. It also does have 3D shaping in the nose and the tail. That's going to be after the contact point. So if you do happen to get this thing in some fresh powder, it's going to float a little better as well. And this thing does hold an edge really well where you can just lean into it. It's gonna carve. I wouldn't say you're gonna be leaving massive trenches behind you, but it holds an edge decently well, where it is that all mountain board, but you can take it in the park, you can take it in that side country. I wouldn't say it's gonna excel in the powder even with that 3D shaping, but it still rides everything pretty well. I love this thing when it's all mountain, especially if you're more of that all mountain rider that just does a bit of everything. An absolutely phenomenal board for you. While I have you here, you might as well like, subscribe, click that bell, and turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of our scheduled programming we have coming out. Number 2 is the Jones Hovercraft 2.0. This board is my favorite POW board of the season, and it's the only POW board on this list. I absolutely love this thing. It's nice and stable. You can ride this thing a little bit bigger and it doesn't feel crazy big, especially when you are in the trees and those tight areas. Because of how short this tail is, it is super nimble and just wiggles right through the trees. Since you do have such a long nose on it, it wants to stay floating and stay above all of that snow. I never had any problems with it trying to sink on me. And honestly, when you get it in that chunder, that beat up day towards the end there, where it's just push pile city, this thing just mows right through it. You don't even have to go at it with speed. You can, I recommend it, and it's just gonna push right through it. But if you wanna take your time and just kind of cruise, it'll just roll right over all those moguls and push piles. This thing rips in powder, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for a POW board. Honorable mentions. Remember, these are all some of my favorite boards of the season. They just weren't able to crack my top 5. First honorable mention is gonna be the K2 Antidote. This thing is definitely gonna be aggressive where you have camber from contact point to contact point, but you do have 3D shaping right on the nose and a little on the tail as well. So when you are landing in powder, it's gonna help you float. This thing is made for that freestyle powder oriented rider where you can take it in the park, go take it off of jumps, that sort of thing, but it really wants to excel in that side country when you're hooking those booters. This board is very aggressive, as I mentioned before, so when you are holding an edge, it holds. You get that thing on edge and it just wants to stay there. You can Euro carve, you can take any sort of carve on this. Just keep in mind, keep those knees bent and stay low just because of how aggressive it is. But if you're that kind of rider, it's gonna be awesome for you. The second honorable mention is going to be the Nitro Beast. This board is a beast. It's everything that the name says it is, where you have full camber from contact point to contact point. It's gonna take a little bit more to load up on those jumps, but when you do, it pops. This thing is crazy when you get it in the air and when you're landing. If you just set that edge or just go straight on the landing, it wants to keep going at full speed. It definitely takes setup turns with absolute precision there, where you can just get on that edge and it wants to. If you're going to spin, just keep in mind you might over rotate with how big this thing actually wants to go. And the final honorable mention is going to be the Jones Stratos. I love this board. It is my race board. It wasn't able to crack the top 5 just because I really do like a lot of other boards a little bit better for daily driving, but this thing is awesome. Definitely on that more aggressive side, it is gonna be that directional shape to it. They call it about a 7 or a 3.5 out of 5 this year, because I don't know why they put it out of 5, but this board is gonna be more aggressive than that. It does have rocker in the nose, but don't let that fool you. That camber zone is quite long on it, so it feels a little bit more aggressive. That being said, it is nice and stable and very fast because it does have that 9,000 centered base. Remember, these are all great options, but they weren't able to crack our top 5. If you're looking for another way to get involved in the community, head on over to Angry Snowboarder VIP. What is it, you ask? Sure, I could explain it here, but we have an awesome video over there getting into it really in depth. And my number 1 favorite board for the 2025 season is the Capita Aeronaut. This board is awesome, just like the rider who it's pretty much made for. There's a little bit of a flat section in the nose with full camber after that. So this thing absolutely rips an edge and it's got loads of pop to it. And that's really what I look for in my favorite boards, is how well can this thing get me in the air and how much effort do I have to put into it. This board, it's a little bit of effort, but it really returns it. The edge hold, especially when you're popping, is great. I did jack up my leg on this by hitting a tree, but you know, that's just the cost of doing business, where I don't blame the board at all on it. But you know, even though I did that on this board, I still love it. It just absolutely rips. Super fun taking it off of jumps. Not the greatest float in powder, but it'll still float for you as long as you go fast enough. But it really just is an awesome board all around. Good work, Capita. Good work, Longo. As always, guys, I've been your host, TC, and this has been my top 5 favorite boards of the 2025 season. If you still need a little bit more information on any of these boards, why don't you go check out my reviews? We have one for every single board I've mentioned.